Okay, so ever feel like you're just kind of reacting to whatever life throws at you?
Mm.
Well, today we're diving deep into the mind of Ray Dalio.
Yeah.
This guy, he decided to, rewrite the rules. And his book, Principles, it's like a guidebook for doing just that,
Yeah.
digging into your excerpts. See if his approach to decision-making, personal growth, that kind of thing, even building a strong team can help us navigate our own lives. Maybe a little better.
You know, what I find so intriguing about Dalio is that he starts from a place of failure.
Really?
Yeah, he readily admits to completely misjudging the 1982 economic crisis, which a lot of people were caught off guard by that.
Wait, so he predicted the wrong crash. You'd think that'd be a major setback for someone like him.
It was, and that's actually what makes his story so powerful, Instead of getting bogged down by that mistake, Dalio, he used it as a springboard.
So he's not just some untouchable genius, got everything right from day one.
Not at all. In fact, he embraces his fallibility, and that experience in 82, it led him to this idea of being what he calls a hyper-realist. He realized, in order to make better decisions, you have to confront those uncomfortable truths head on, even when it hurts.
Okay, so let's unpack this hyper-realist thing. What does that even mean in practice?
Think about those times you might avoid looking at your bank account.
Oh, yeah.
After a spending spree, maybe, or you put off a difficult conversation you know you need to have. That's the opposite of what Dalio is talking about.
Ouch. Feel a little personally attacked, but I get it. We shy away from the tough stuff.
Exactly, but Dalio's point is, by acknowledging those harsh realities, by not shying away from the data, even when it's negative, then we can start making, clearer, more objective decisions.
So how does that actually work? Does he have, a system for this? Or is it more of a mindset shift?
It's both, actually. Dalio believes in analyzing situations, particularly in the business world, through the lens of history. He's always looking for patterns, what he called another one of those moments.
Another one of those meaning?
Meaning he believes that so many economic events, even crises, they've happened before, often multiple times, and by studying history, we can better anticipate, navigate, challenges. It's about recognizing that the world is rarely caught completely off guard.
Makes you wonder if becoming a student of history could actually be the key to better decision-making, not just in, finance, but in our own lives. Makes you think.
Absolutely. And if we can identify those historical parallels, another one of those moments that Dalio talks about, then we can start to make decisions that are based on something a little bit more than just gut feeling.
Yeah. But let's say you've accepted a difficult truth, right? Now what? How do you actually go about finding the best path forward?
That's where Dalio's emphasis on radical open-mindedness and transparency comes in. And he's not just talking about being, receptive to new ideas. He's talking about actively seeking out diverse viewpoints, especially those that challenge your own.
Yeah, well, he takes this to an extreme, even when it comes to something as personal as medical advice.
Right. Dalio shares a story about how when he was seeking a diagnosis, he encouraged his doctors to openly debate their opinions in front of him. Can you imagine?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
I would be mortified.
Having that kind of courage?
Yeah.
To invite that level of scrutiny?
But he's making a point, though, about the importance of feedback loops, right? Even when they involve disagreement or criticism, they're essential for growth.
Exactly, and this ties back to his belief in becoming a hyper-realist, right? You can't improve if you're not willing to hear the hard truths, even if they come from unexpected sources.
So we're constantly seeking out these diverse opinions, challenging our assumptions. But how do we then take all that information and make a decision? I mean, our own brains can be our own worst enemies, right?
Oh, absolutely. And Dalio dives into this with his concept of the two U's. It's that constant battle between our emotional, impulsive side and our logical, thoughtful side.
Yeah.
We've all been there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Torn between what we know we should do and what we feel like doing.
Oh, tell me about it. That slice of cake whispering my name when I'm trying to eat healthy, that's the two U's in action.
Precisely. And Dalio doesn't just describe the problem, he offers solutions. He's a big believer in the power of habits, drawing on the work of Charles Duhigg.
Oh, yeah.
We did a whole deep dive on him, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
In case you missed it.
Always a good one. So how do we, hack these habits? Make them work for us instead of against us?
Well, Dalio, he challenges his readers to really identify their 3 most harmful habits and, actively work on breaking them. He emphasizes that understanding the cues, the routines, the rewards that make up a habit loop,
Right.
that gives us the power to actually change it.
Okay, I'm up for the challenge, but habit breaking aside, Dalio's whole approach to work is intriguing. It's not just about the bottom line for him, is it?
Not at all. He argues that work should be about pursuing a shared mission,
Mm-hmm.
about building these genuine connections with the people that you work with.
Right.
He talks about the early days at Bridgewater, how he really prioritized creating a culture of mutual support, almost like an extended family.
That's pretty different from like the cutthroat image a lot of people have of the finance world.
Right.
Do you think that's what ultimately, contributed to Bridgewater's success, that approach?
It's certainly a key part of their story. I mean, think about it. When you feel valued, connected to something bigger than yourself, you're naturally more invested, more creative, more willing to go the extra mile, right?
Right.
Dalio saw that firsthand.
Yeah. Makes you think about your own work life, right?
Yeah.
What makes it meaningful for you? How could you strengthen those connections with your colleagues,
These are the questions every listener should be asking themselves.
Yeah.
It can lead to some pretty profound insights, not just for your career, but for your overall well-being.
So we've got this strong team, we've got the shared mission, but then we need to actually make decisions together. Dalio has this very specific, almost algorithmic 5-step process for that, right?
He does, and it's not just some theoretical framework. He actually uses it at Bridgewater. Credits it with making their decision-making more consistent, more effective. It starts with clearly defining your goals.
Okay.
Then identifying the problems that are hindering you from reaching those goals, diagnosing the root causes of those problems, designing potential solutions, and then finally putting those solutions into action.
It sounds almost deceptively simple when you lay it out like that.
Right.
But I imagine the devil's in the details.
Absolutely. One crucial element is what Dalio calls believability-weighted decision-making.
Okay.
It's about identifying the most credible voices on a given issue, those with a proven track record of success in that area, and giving their opinions more weight.
So not just any opinion carries equal weight. It's about finding the experts, right?
Yeah.
The believable people, as he calls them.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
And he even shares this anecdote about a time when, the quality of client memos at Bridgewater, it took a nosedive. Despite their rigorous systems.
Wait, even with Dalio's 5-step process, things still went wrong?
Of course. No system is foolproof.
Right.
But that's where Dalio's emphasis on, continuous feedback and iteration comes into play. They identified the issue, diagnosed the root cause, adjusted their process to prevent it from happening again.
So it's about constantly questioning, testing, refining, even when you think you've got a good system in place.
Precisely. And this ties into another key principle, this idea of an idea meritocracy.
Okay.
On the surface, it seems very straightforward.
Yeah.
The best ideas win.
Right.
But how do you actually create a culture where that's truly the case?
Yeah, because in most workplaces, it can be pretty intimidating to disagree with your boss.
Yeah.
Even if you have a better idea.
Exactly. But Dalio believes that thoughtful disagreement, even constructive conflict, is essential for reaching those best possible solutions.
So how do you actually build that kind of culture?
Yeah.
Where honest feedback, debate, it's encouraged, not something people are afraid of. It sounds like walking a tightrope.
It's definitely a delicate balance. Dalio talks about separating ego from the idea.
Okay.
It's not about being right. It's about arriving at the best possible solution collectively.
Right.
And he actually built systems at Bridgewater to facilitate this, using technology to actually track different perspectives, weigh them based on believability, all of that.
Wow, that's next level. But it makes me think about the human element, right? Like you could have all the systems in place, but if you don't have the right people in the first place, it's not going to work.
You're absolutely right. And that's a core tenet of Dalio's philosophy.
Right.
The WHO is more important than the what.
Meaning the people matter more than the specific tasks or even the grand plan even.
Exactly. You could have the most brilliant strategy in the world, but if you don't have the right team to execute it, it's worthless.
Right.
Dalio really emphasizes matching those individual strengths to roles, fostering an environment where people can thrive based on their unique abilities.
He tells a great story about this executive's meticulously detailed transition plan,
Yes.
Everything was documented.
Yep.
Every responsibility assigned. But when it came to who would actually fill his shoes, crickets.
It's a perfect example of prioritizing the what at the expense of the W.
Yeah.
And it's a trap that a lot of leaders fall into, especially those who are very process-oriented.
Right.
They focus so much on the system, they forget about the humans that make it all run.
Right. So how do we avoid that trap? How do we make sure we're like putting the right people in the right seats, so to speak?
Well, Dalio advocates for what he calls baseball cards for employees.
Okay.
Essentially like profiles that capture not just their skills, their experience, but their values, their personality types, strengths, weaknesses, all laid out.
Okay, I kind of love this idea. It's like a cheat sheet for understanding your team dynamics.
Right.
Although I hope my weaknesses wouldn't be on public display.
Well, the idea is to have this transparent, honest understanding of each team member's capabilities, how they best fit within the team.
It's brilliant. Takes the guesswork out of like delegation, team building. You can see like who thrives in a leadership role, who's a like creative powerhouse, who's a master of logistics, all of that.
And remember, this isn't just some random idea Dalio came up with.
Right.
He spent we're talking years, studying psychology, neuroscience, even collaborating with leading academics to really understand what makes people tick, what motivates them, how they function best within a team.
So it's not just about like applying these principles to his business. It's constantly testing and refining them, almost like a scientist in a lab.
Exactly. And that brings us back to his core principle, embracing reality.
Mm-hmm.
This whole approach, this radical truth and transparency, it's not about achieving some like perfect utopia.
Right.
It's about constantly striving for improvement, acknowledging that we'll make mistakes, and most importantly, learning from them.
So where does this all leave us, the listeners, trying to navigate our own messy realities out here?
I think the biggest takeaway from Dalio's principles is that we all have the potential to learn, evolve, to become better versions of ourselves, both personally and professionally.
It starts with like facing reality head on, even when it's tough, right?
Yeah.
And being open to challenging our own deeply held assumptions. And it requires, like you said, actively seeking out that feedback, even if it's critical, and not shying away from those uncomfortable conversations.
Dalio's story is a powerful reminder that success, whether it's in life or work, it isn't just about some innate talent or luck. It's about having that clear set of principles, a framework for making sense of the world, and the courage to stick to those principles even when things get tough.
It's about being open to new information, constantly learning, constantly growing, and like remembering that even someone as successful as Ray Dalio, he started from a place of failure.
He did.
He embraced those failures, he learned from them, and ultimately used them to build something remarkable.
Absolutely. And as we kind of wrap up our deep dive here, one final thought to leave you with.
Okay.
Dalio talks about this idea of finding your own, what he calls, unique value proposition.
Okay.
That thing that you're uniquely good at that the world needs.
That's a powerful question to consider. What is it that you bring to the table? How can you leverage your strengths, your passions, to make a real impact?
Those are questions worth pondering.
Yeah.
And as Dalio would say, worth pursuing with radical truth and radical transparency,